Hey guys, Mellow Modesty here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Flex Mentallo, The Man of Muscle Mystery, deluxe hardcover, written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Frank Whiteley. Flex Mentallo is a part of Grant Morrison's hypesigil trilogy, along with The Invisibles and The Filth. However, you do not need to read The Filth or The Invisibles to understand this. They are not a trilogy in the sense of story, but more of sharing similar themes. Flex Mentallo's debut was in Doom Patrol issue 35, and then he actually had a big story arc in Doom Patrol on issue 42. After that, Grant Morrison later, about almost 10 years later, went on to write Flex Mentallo, The Man of Muscle Mystery, which is a 4-part miniseries. However, since then, the Charles Atlas Company sued DC because of more than a few similarities between Flex Mentallo and Charles Atlas's character. And there was this big legal battle, and Flex Mentallo has been out of print for years and years, and issues were known to go up to the astronomical prices as the issues of Miracle Man were. Luckily, DC finally printed, or reprinted, Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery in a gorgeous, gorgeous hardcover, and I am so happy they did, because this is a great, great series. The story of Flex Mentallo is nearly impossible to describe, but I will try to. At first glance, the story is about Flex Mentallo, who is he's a very buff guy who runs around in leopard print shorts, which you may think sounds silly, but trust me, this is one of the more genius comics I've read in a very long time. But, so, his big muscle strength, he doesn't really have super strength, but he flexes, and when he does, he rips reality. For example, when Flex Mentallo flexes his bicep, he can create an earthquake, or when he flexes his lats, he can read people's minds. And whenever he flexes something, his hero halo appears above his head saying Hero of the Beach. Another character in this book who is a huge character is Wally Sage, Flex Mentallo's creator. One really interesting thing about this book is that Wally created Flex Mentallo when he was a kid, and he actually brought his comic creation into the real world. And thus starts Flex Mentallo, because in this story, Flex Mentallo has been brought into the real world, yet he finds out one of his old sidekicks has also named the Fact. However, the Fact is now part of a group called Faculty X, which is causing a lot of trouble, so during this story, Flex is trying to chase down his old sidekick and figure out what is going on. Or so it seems. This book is just so complex, and there are so many different storylines going on. Yes, it is a meta comic, which I have no problem with, but I know many people don't like meta comics. So there's just so much going on. There's also something with Wally is committing suicide, which is a huge part of the plot, and the Legion of Legions, and it's just this huge reality time-spanning, world-spanning story that is just really hard to describe, but I think it's fantastic. However, that being said, this is an incredibly deep, complex, and difficult to understand story. Most people say with Grant Morrison, you either like his stuff or you don't. With this book is different. Like, The Invisibles is a very difficult book to understand. This is even worse. This was a really, really hard challenge to read. I would not say this was a fun read. I would say that this was a maybe enjoyable, but like, I wouldn't really say I was having fun while I was reading it. I would say afterwards, I was just like, oh shit, that was awesome. But I did have to read this 2.5 times before this review, just because there was so much that went over my head, and I still don't completely understand it. So, I don't even think I could recommend this to fans of Morrison's All-Star Superman or his Doom Patrol or his X-Men Justice League stuff. Like, this is really a book that you just are gonna get or you're not, regardless of whether you're into Grant Morrison stuff or whatever. One interesting thing they did with the issues or chapters of this book is they made each issue a different age of comics, the first being the Golden Age, then the Silver Age, then the Dark Age, and then finally the what Grant Morrison thinks comics are going to be like. When most people say that comic books are for kids and aren't intelligent, I would usually show them something like Watchmen or The Dark Knight Returns. Some people may say that this is the prime example of comic books are intelligent. However, I would not show this to someone who hasn't read comic books before, because this is really a meditation on what comics have done, where they're going, and if you're not a fan of comics, I cannot recommend this to you because you really need to be to understand this. The artwork in this book by Frank Whiteley is absolutely stunning, to say the least, and this particular deluxe edition has had a touch-up to the colors, which I don't own the original issues, but I've looked them up online, and this new color scheme, I think, is far superior. Frank Whiteley is one of my favorite comic book artists, if you guys didn't know, and he might even be my #1 favorite. But here is just a great splash page that doesn't entirely fit in my camera space, but his artwork is just stunning. His paneling in this book is, oh my god, you can see he does a lot of bleeding effect in this book, and even like the first page, just how it goes from not in panel space to exceeding the panel space. It's just so amazing. And oh my god, I love the artwork in this book. It is so amazing, and I can't really say more about it. Some people don't like Frank Whiteley, which I find absolutely baffling, because I have not seen one bad piece of work from him, and this is no exception. This is actually probably my favorite thing by Frank Whiteley. So, if that's saying anything, it is pretty fucking amazing. As for this edition, you get the new coloring, which I talked about and I absolutely loved. The dust jacket is very nice, a nice texture, very colorful. I love the cover. You also get this nice wraparound once you take off the dust jacket. You get a great splash page of Flex and the Legion of Legions. You get a completely fabricated 4-page essay on the history of Flex Mentallo, which just really shows all the work that went into this book, because there is no history of Flex Mentallo, but they created one. Also, at the end of the book, you get about 15 pages of concept art by Whiteley, which I enjoyed. It's not the best special features I've ever seen in a book, but you get some great inked artwork, and at the very last page you get the classic picture of Flex himself. So yeah. So as I'm sure you guys can tell, I absolutely adore this book. This is in my top 5 favorite comics of all time. Might even be #2. Might even be #1 after I reread it a few more times. But it's really great. However, I can recommend this to a very select audience of people, and even to them I'd be sort of cautious. However, if you're a fan of intelligent comics and you want to try something new, give this a chance. I'm also thinking of doing a discussion about it, a whole video just breaking down every issue about what's going on, because it's very complex. And if you guys are having trouble understanding it, I can send you some links to some stuff that I found helpful. And I hope you guys enjoyed. If I were to give this a review, I would give this, a score, I would give this a 10 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed. See you later, guys.